Hey everyone, welcome back to another amazing episode of K9 Legends and Trailblazers. I've been waiting on this interview for a long time. I have one of the best legends in the game. I'm proud to welcome Mr. Chris Willingham to the program. Hey buddy, what's going on?
And you know what? I appreciate you having me on here, Joe. Really, really looking forward to this.
Yeah, man, it's an honor to have you, man. I got to be honest with you. When I first, my wife told me that I needed to start this show. She said this because she said I'm always on the phone and I'm talking K9 an hour, 2 hours at a time, and talking about what we used to do and how we did it. And she said you need to talk to people and record it. I said okay. And you were the first one I reached out to be honest, because I was coming down to the 25th anniversary of War Dog Association. I said, man, that's a great opportunity. There's going to be a lot of heavy hitters there. Um, but unfortunately, as busy as you were, man, my goodness, man, I think I saw you all about 10 seconds. And and as soon as I see you, you disappear again. I'm like, we're not even gonna try it, man. But I appreciate you attempting with me there. But I just knew it didn't work out schedule wise. But we're so glad to have you, man. I I started this podcast or this YouTube channel to highlight the two-footed heroes in K9. We love our four-legged heroes, man. We do, and we do a really good job of recognizing them as we should. But behind every great dog is a great handler, a great trainer, a great supervisor, a great kennel master, a great police chief. And sometimes that goes unseen because everybody loves the dogs. Not everybody loves us as two-legged humans, but I just want to highlight those that have impacted me over my career, especially, and you did. I know we were peers, but you were also my hero, man. Um, so I wanna be quiet now, and I want to talk about you. And so I know you joined the Marine Corps in 1999, and I know you got a little bit of history with the Marine Corps with your family, but when did you know you were going to go in the Marine Corps, Chris?
Well, I was after I graduated high school, I went to a college for a couple years, and I just felt like there was there was something else out there for me. I felt like I just needed to, and I was going to just do 4 years. I just thought that um, I just felt a calling for a different challenge. I needed to go outside of my hometown and get some different life experience. And my dad was a machine gunner in Vietnam in the Marine Corps, and now he never pushed me to join. He was supportive. He actually wanted me to go to college, in which I did.
Yeah.
Um, but also, my dad was my hero. He still is. Like
Yeah.
he's uh, after he did a couple years in the Marine Corps and 10 months over in Vietnam, he came back and he was 35 years, 36 years in law enforcement, and uh, man, that man was an absolute legend at his job, and he was on one of the first federal task force in the southeast, working narcotics. And sometimes I would come home, and then he'd be loading up in a SWAT vehicle and going to work. I'm like, dude, my dad's a hero, man. He's badass. And then we'd have, back then we didn't have cell phones, so we'd often have like drug dealers calling the house, and he was running drug dealers and all kind of stuff. Like it was a very unique growing up, and I'd hear him threaten a drug dealer and then look at me as like, boy, your homework done. I was like, hell, I did it twice. Like it's like so I joined just I just saw who he was as a man in the community. He was a man of faith. He helped out a lot and volunteered a lot in the community, but he was also a legend on the law enforcement side. And it all started with the Marine Corps. And I was just like, man, I'm gonna give this a shot. I want to go do 4 years. I'm gonna come back and try to be a state trooper and work with my dad and
Yeah.
work my way up in narcotics like he did. And that's how it all started with me.
Yeah, and we'll give a shout out to Mr. Eldon Willingham. I've had the pleasure to meet him a couple times, and what a wonderful man he is.
Yes, sir.
So you join the Marine Corps, right? You go to Camp Lejeune, I assume, uh, being
I
from
did.
Alabama. I'm surprised you didn't give a shout out to hometown Alabama yet, but maybe you will.
I will. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
of
yeah.
course. So, and a lot of people on that listen to the show, they kind of know the story, the routine of how it goes as a Marine. you go through the Marine Corps and then you go MCT, and at some point, you get an opportunity to become a K9 handler. How did that look like for you, Chris?
Yeah. So for me, I went to boot camp. I didn't know we had dogs in the military. I went to boot camp, and I went all the way through MP school and went out to the Camp Lejeune. And my first roommate was a dog handler, a guy named Tommy Doler.
Yeah.
And and again, I was not, like 19 years old, and just enjoying the experience. And we got to talking, and he's like, he's like, man, you got to come check out, what we do. And he explains the dog handler. I was like, what are you talking about? And he kind of gave me a rundown, and I was like, yeah, man, I'll come check it out. And dude, I went out there one time, and I was like, I got to do this.
That
Like,
was
this is
it.
it. This is it. And I started volunteering on my off time, and asking questions and just trying to be, because it was generally an interest to me, um, of what they were doing and how they're able to communicate with these animals, and just seeing them in performance for even basic demonstrations and some of their training. I was like, this is like my fire, man. This is something I would be definitely interested in doing. And then I got an opportunity to go to Canine School. I had to go through like a little bit of a selection process,
Yep.
and then 2000. So I was in the fleet for about 10 months, and then I went down to Lackland Air Force Base to go to K9 school, and then went back to Lejeune for my first 3 years.
Yeah. So you
Yep.
spent 2000 to 2003 at Camp Lejeune as a dog handler. And who were some of the other guys that were there with you?
I had Douglas Bonar,
Okay.
Tommy Doler, T.J. Murray, Lamar Booker, Kurt John, our kennel master, who was about to retire in early 2026, was John Salvetti. He was my
Okay.
first kennel master in the Marine Corps. He retired, and he's been doing that job as a civilian for probably another 20 years after
Oh
20 years in the
wow.
Marine Corps. Um, Elena Ybarra, Alan
Okay.
Cook.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a good crew there. I felt fortunate having Matt Pearson.
Yep.
I felt good having the crew I had to kind of get me started and indoctrinated into the K9 family.
Yeah, and that's a good list right there, man. A lot of those names are familiar to me. So so you're out at Camp Lejeune, you're doing military police work, doing K9 work, working the road, obviously getting some good training reps in with some of those names that you mentioned. So tell me about the opportunity. How'd the opportunity come up to get down to the 341st? Because that's your next assignment from there.
Yeah, so I was going K9 school in 2000, and then the next year with 9/11 happening, that kind of changed everything for me. That changed my 4 year plan, from I want to do this for 4 years and use it as a stepping stone and kind of better myself to go back,
Yeah.
to I was like, no, I got a different cause of purpose now. And because when that happened, that we were going up to UNGA to support the Secret Service for United Nations, because it's in September. Matt Pearson and I were,
Yeah.
and obviously that changed everything. Now all the gates were locked down. We're doing all the vehicle searches, but it all became very real and kind of elevated your sense of urgency and heightened your kind of situational awareness.
Right.
And then when it came up for, because back then in the Marine Corps, especially, you had to be recommended to go to Lackland. It wasn't just you get orders down there.
Right.
And uh, Gunner Sergeant Salve at the time recommended me to go. And I had also applied for Border Patrol, and I got accepted by Border Patrol, and I got orders to Lackland. And I think it was like 10 days to decide. Talk to my wife, and I'm not done in the Marine Corps yet. I still want to serve my country, and um, accepted the orders, and moved down. Now this was all still before invasion in Iraq and everything else. You just didn't know what
Right.
was going to come, but I wanted to do my continue to serve my country, and so went down to Lackland and checked in, and beginning January, February of 2003.
Yeah. And so I was just a couple months behind you. I ended up there like April 2003. But what a wild experience that was because the year prior, 2 years prior, their TDR, that total dog replacement number, it was in the low 200s.
Yeah.
And when we started piling in there, and there was a bunch of us that
Yep.
came at the same time, that number was 360,
Yep.
370. And I think the difference for us I'll just talk about the dog training squadron particularly was that we knew where these dogs were going, right?
Yeah,
We knew what they were getting ready to do. And I tell people all the time, man, the best decision I ever made in my life, hands down, was to go to the 341st,
I agree.
because the amount of reps, the amount of knowledge,
Yeah,
um, you don't. I thought I knew something about dog training when I got there. I didn't know a dang thing, man.
same.
Yeah, and guys like Shane Green, Steve Byer, John Granat, Chris Knight, the list goes on and on and on. All legends in my book.
Yeah.
But to get time with those guys and under those guys, that was probably what set me up for the rest of my career.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. Like I felt like just the culmination of all of us getting there around that same time frame, and it drove a very healthy competition of like I've I gotta be on my game because this dude's on his game, and I'm it's kind of like an iron sharpen iron. Like I was like learning stuff from other people and then trying to better myself, and then seeing somebody else excel, and I'm rooting them on, but I'm challenging myself, and it was a really good headspace to be in, man, and it was across the board down there. Like we were all like just hungry, I think the best thing too about our group is 3 p.m. on a Friday, you'd make a couple texts and we'd have 50 of us playing Texas Hold'em
Mhm.
together, hanging out on the off time. We all hung out together
Yeah,
afterwards. And it was just, I don't know, man, uh, it was a very special environment, very special group of individuals. We all push each other to get better.
yeah.
And, I'm forever grateful for that period of time down at Lackland. That was very special to me, and it helped shape and mold me who I am today, for
Yeah,
sure.
100%, man. Couldn't agree with you more. Um, I, I tell people all the time, I've never been able to emulate that vibe, if you will. Again, like you said, it was a couple texts on the old phones too, where you had to hit the number 3 times to get the medal you wanted.
Yeah,
And there'd be 20, 25 trainers showing up in a
yeah,
garage, and somebody's bringing a poker table because it
yeah.
stayed and moved around houses. And I'll say it now, we're both retired. It was an old conference table that we had found in one of the buildings, and we cut it up and put some felt on it. And that joker must have weighed 600 pounds. Uh,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You had to put some work in it to move it to your house. Like,
yeah, yeah. And I'll give one shout out about poker while we're talking about it. I just want to remind Corey Lorenz and Daryl Goff, there's two things I want to talk to y'all about. One is about some spoons,
yeah,
and then the
yeah,
other is about a $10 bill that's still floating
yeah.
around there.
100%, 100%.
So,
I think the poker. I don't know if the poker playing sharpened my shit talking abilities or the dog training did, but they fed into each other and just
oh,
made
100%. They went hand in hand. They absolutely went hand in hand. And again, man, some of the best times of my life were there.
100%.
And
Same
like
here,
I
brother.
said, I went to K2 later and I tried to emulate that, invite everybody over for poker, and I was just wah, wah, wah. It's not the same. I tried to get
Not
my
this.
high O and it didn't work out, man. Um, so like most progression there, you start over at the dog training squadron, and then eventually, when you're good, they move you to do something else, right? So they moved you over to SSD, specialized search dog team. And so that was kind of the start of something new. It was something new and fresh. But your story has a really good twist through SSD, man, not only on the American side, but another country. And I'll let you talk through it.
Yeah, man, that was after doing a couple years at DTS and training dogs and doing the buy trips. Now,
It's fun,
shout
man.
out to the buy trips. Those things were insane. Like
Yes. Yes.
we'd go for 30 days at a time and look at 400 dogs, and that was just it was incredible. Just the amount of behavior you see and the reps you get, and just always went with a great crew and had some great memories over there.
Yeah.
But you kind of fulfill that, and they started the SSD program. Like, hey, the number one threat to coalition forces overseas was improvised explosive devices.
Yeah.
We need an off leash searching dog, single purpose dog that can range out and allow the dog to do his independent hunting while the handler is looking at watching his back, but also identifying areas he needs to search. At the time, it was an opportunity. And I don't, it definitely didn't truly set in until years later where I look back, I'm like, that's a pretty special opportunity, man. Like, and just to frame it up, you know, they picked, one Marine, one Army, one Air Force to start it. And you were the first Air Force. I was the first Marine.
Yeah.
Um, you that like that's a special part of history, man, that I'll always treasure. And I just didn't. I loved it at the time, but I didn't understand the significance. If you're like that chapter of history is now closed, SSD program's gone.
Yeah.
That whole chapter of it, K9's gone, dude. We in there. Like
Yeah, man. And
that was special, man. I
it was
learned a lot from Paul Bunker,
yeah.
who came in and taught us a lot of his experience with the off leash work.
Yeah.
Um, and we had Orlando Nunez and Robert Norman, who came back on the civilian contract side, like, and just they pick dudes like, y'all have been successful. You got the leadership style. Go out there and figure this thing out. They bring in Paul Bunker as a consultant, and it just all kind of worked and gelled together. And I will forever be proud of the product we put out and grateful for the opportunity to work with dudes like you to make that happen. And it was, man, that was special, man. And at that time, the Army was looking for the best way to also start an off leash program, and the Marine Corps started looking at how to find, because it was just all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Find the best method to save lives.
Yeah.
Find what's out there and let's make it our own. That was the message. Like,
Yeah.
and so the Army went with the Brits and started going over there for train a trainer, start understand their ways. Like I said, we had Paul Bunker come to Lackland, and we were morphing our ideas together down at Lackland. And the Marine Corps went with Israel. The Israeli, the IDF OCATS unit, their special forces unit, had an incredible off-leash program. And for about 5 or 6 years, they sent 4 Marines a year to go over and train with them, train alongside them, live on their base, and learn their techniques. Now, we were the second group to go to Israel in 2006, and the only reason I was on that ship was because of Chris Knight. He was slated to go, and they had another guy who was senior to me that was slated to go, but he ended up putting in an officer package. Yep. And they asked Chris who to take, and he said, "Take Willingham." Yep. And Chris Knight means the world to me for a lot of reasons, which I'll get into throughout this thing. But for him to give me that vote of confidence meant a lot, because he was like, he's larger than life. That dude's larger than life, man. Like, and at that point, we were just more work associates. I didn't serve with him before that, and I got to know him at Lackland. But in Israel, we were roommates. We got to know each other, and then we were in Iraq together. It was a whole, so he's been there for me through some tough times. But to going over to Israel, basically they had 4 Marines and 5 dogs, and they give you a chance to kind of work them all, and then they do you got to write a kind of a bio, and they kind of interview you. And this is them setting the handler and the dog up, kind of like a kennel master would do. They were just trying to get a feel for us, and they know the dogs, and they wanted to get a feel for us and then match us up.
Yeah.
And they paired me up with SSD Lucca. That was their call, and I was like, I was excited. I was excited for any of them. Right. And then when Lucca and I started training, Lucca only cared about the cone. Like there was no relationship with me. So she was just about the cone, and we fell behind a little bit. So I did a bunch of extra rapport walks, and I was grooming her, and I was giving her food treats, and I was doing everything to develop the relationship, like between me and her. And so we fell behind a couple of steps, and then that clicked. Luke and I clicked, and Chris will tell you, we took off. We took off.
That's literally what he said. He said, I could never catch up to Chris Willingham and SSD, man. He's like, I'm that he's talking about that competition, that competition, and he's like, I was just rooting for a strong second at that point. He said Chris and Lucca, once it clicked up, they were just gone, man. Yeah, go ahead.
I watched your interview with Chris, and then when I watched it, I just texted you. I was like, "I love you, man." Like he calls it straight. Like it is what it is. Like, it was Luke. I mean, I'm a Marine from Alabama. Like Luke was special, though. Like
Yeah,
but she was, but our synergy meshed really well,
yeah,
and we one thing I learned from the Israelis is what they taught. Everything they teach is more high risk because of the nature of what they're facing, and again, it's part of their OCAT's Special Forces unit. So you're talking about doing a static search with your dog hundreds of meters in front of you, and they're listening to radio commands
yeah.
and training well above that standard. Like on training, on average, dude, I could send her 500 yards easy, and with just like barely whisper commands through a radio. And what that does is for me, kind of fast forward, and I only use the radios at night on night missions over in Iraq because it just adds extra weight, and I don't need them during the daytime.
Right.
But we'd get off of they'd fly us in, we'd land at 10 o'clock at night, and I would be like 2 or 3 men because we'd land in some nasty areas and there was no IED threat as we're making approach.
Right.
We started getting close, and I bump up to 1 man, and she had a IR chem light on her harness, and I had a push to talk, and I could still have my handle rifle and just click it, and you could barely hear me giving her commands, looking forward, and she'd go up and hit the breach point of whatever compound we're going to hit. I was like, I got to pull it back. I got no indication. We go hit the house and wrap up everybody, and whatever happened there, and then I'd always lead the way on the way out. I would uh, because now you're going into unknown territory and you're leaving from the target. And I would search, and we never went back the same way. Fear of backlayed IED, setting patterns.
Right.
We go out a different way, and I would search the LZ, bird land, pick us up, and take us home. But all that capability from the off leash at a very high precision level came from the Israelis.
Yeah, yeah, and amazing how you almost had three programs at one point for off-leash capability, right? We had the DoD, well, I wouldn't say DoD, I'd say the 341st SSD program. You had the Israeli program, and then later along came the IDD program.
Yep.
Um, and you're right, man. That's a great word to use, precision, right? Precision searching, and I I know at some point, oh seven is when you started pushing, you pushed back out to Camp Pendleton, right? Now, or when did you leave Lackland? Because it was
Well,
kind of
so
blurry to me because you
I
were in and out. Yeah,
me and Knight had a very unique career path. Like, so we
yeah,
went to Israel, and with the understanding we were going to deploy to Iraq.
right,
So we came back, and it was like I think November. Oh no, December, right
yeah,
before Christmas. We got home, and then we spent about 2 months at home, and then we went to Lejeune, and then we went to Iraq. And so it was, all told, is about 17 out of 19 months away from the family. And then I came back from Iraq, and uh, within 6 weeks, I was PCS in the Camp Pendleton, California. I didn't know which way was up.
So, so it kept and again, let's go back. You and Luca deployed, man. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for your service there, man. I know your character. I know what kind of person you are. I know what kind of leader you are, and I'm sure that that time over there, a lot of lives were saved, man. And so thank you for that, and we appreciate that as a country. Um, Now, transition over to Camp Pendleton, right? And for anyone that doesn't know, Camp Pendleton's on the West Coast, right? Was that the start of the Marine Expeditionary Force, the MEF?
That was if I might say something real quick about the
Yeah,
deployment before I move on, like
yeah,
because I've made a promise to Gold Star families
yeah,
that anytime I get a chance to talk about K9, I'm going to talk about their sons, and so as much kind of quote unquote good I've done in the K9 community for me.
yeah,
On 2 deployments, I failed to bring all my dudes home, and that's kind of sat with me, and that'll be my cross to bear. But on that 2007 deployment to Iraq, we were south of Baghdad. So Baghdad, the nickname was the Triangle of Death,
Right.
and it was a horrible area. And they didn't have any sustained military forces in 10 months. And our job was to go down and clear house because Baghdad was getting a lot of car bombs and
Yeah.
rocket attacks. And I was the only dog team assigned to this unit. And I was like, hey, I could use some help. And they sent me Corey Weens.
Yeah.
Now, I had known Corey at SSD school, as we did a year prior. When I first got to Knight and I first got to Baghdad, Corey was the first one that picked us up from the airfield and showed us around, like, big smile on his face, like always. He's a very capable individual, a stud of a dog handler from Oregon. His grandfather was a dog handler in Korea, and like, hey, we're gonna send you Corey Weens. So absolutely, let's go. He showed up, and for about 5 weeks, we were nonstop together. We were. It was a bad area. It was a lot of IEDs to find, and it got to the point where they let Corey and I help with the planning of certain missions. For example, we were getting mortared north of Patrol Base Murray.
Yeah.
And the idea back then is you're not carrying it out there with you. You got a cache, you go out there, you dig up, you launch a couple mortar rounds, and then you beat feed.
Right.
Uh, and so with that knowledge, that was the TTPs at the time, and we set it up. And Corey and I went out, and I was with a squad. He was with a squad, and right at crack of dawn, we started sweeping these areas where the POO site, the point of origin site, should have been. And then Corey located the cache of mortar rounds. Like, we made a great name for K9 with the finds we had and the way we conducted ourselves, and we never said no. Not never said no in a bad way. I mean, we were just. I've seen dog handlers on deployment use their dog as an excuse not to do shit.
Right.
We didn't do that.
Right.
If my dog's capable, and I'm not a quit. I'm a go.
Yeah.
If my dog's got the energy, if she's had to rest, we're a go. Like, I'm not gonna. I don't need a AC for. I don't need all this shit. Like, if we can go, we're gonna go. And if my dog got tired, I put her in a Humvee and I go kick indoors with the dudes. Like, that's what we did. And but unfortunately, on one of the patrols, now it was. Corey he had just had a good conversation with his dad, Mr. Kevin Weens.
Yeah.
And it was right after 4th of July. And he went out, and there was no intel in this place. Like, typically, I'm the senior dude. I would pick the more, I would say, difficult stuff. I would never put another dude in something that would be more difficult. I feel like I'm a more experienced guy. Yeah. I was older. I've been around the game longer. Yeah. There was no intel in this building. And fucking IED, man, large IED. Dog was off leash, coming from right to left, and as they kind of converged, the IED went off, and it killed his SSD Cooper. Yeah. Corey was killed. A Salazar was a security guy was killed, and it wounded 5 others. Wow. It was a large IED, man. It was. And to be on the recovery effort, that was tough. And to be part of a, fallen hero ceremony where you carry him off the battlefield in a body bag and put him in the helicopter as he's flying off to send him home to his family. Like, that was tough, man. That was a tough day to process, and you got to compartmentalize stuff, and you don't, you just keep going back to work. And then I went back on missions. And when I finally got back to our tent, it was just Corey and I's tent. We had dogs with us, so it was just me and him in a tent at Fob Falcon, and all that stuff was still there. That was tough, man. That's where the first time I broke down about it, and Lucca came over and put her head on my leg, and just knew I needed some comfort in that moment. And then after that, you just kind of suck it up and get back to work. And I became a little bit obsessed with, like, finding IDs and doing work, and it was probably not the most healthy thing, but it was, I couldn't process any other way. It's just, I need to stay out and do as much as I can. And I think I lost like 18 pounds. And when Chris came up to see me, he's like, dude, you okay? And that's when he had, we had a good talk and stuff. But as I was going through it, and I didn't, they wanted to send me home because my daughter was going to be born in September. They wanted me to send me home for the birth. I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, Corey's not going home. It's like, right. I didn't sit right with me. So I kept doing missions up until the end. And when Maria was telling the kind of writing the book about Lucca, Top Dog, she was in our basement in Virginia years later, and I just explained that story, and it hit me that I never told Jill that, and I didn't want her to read about it. And I went upstairs and told her, and that I had opportunity to come home and see Claire's birth, and um, I just didn't take it. And she was so understanding of like, dude, you were a different person back then. You were in a different headspace. Like, doesn't mean you don't love her any less. Just I completely understand where you were back then. Like, gave me so much grace in that moment.
Yeah.
Can't thank her enough. Like, she's been a rock star through
I was
all
gonna
this.
say, man, probably about over half your success is probably due to your amazing family.
Yeah,
Um, Jill has always been there, man, she's just an amazing person. I don't have to tell you that, you know that. And brother, I definitely didn't want to skim over that, but I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it. So,
I
uh,
I, I think it's important. The further we get away from sustained combat operations, it's more important to honor our fallen, and I've made a promise to Kevin and also to Julie Schrock that I would do that for their sons whenever I have opportunity to talk about K9. So
yeah,
I'll
and
keep the legacy alive.
I know you do on a regular basis. Every event I've ever been to, um, with War Dogs or any of that, I see Mr. Wayne's there. He's there. He's still out there supporting. Matter of fact, I think I got a wooden star. Is that what it was?
Yes, sir.
I got a wooden star from him. He handmade them. But yeah, man, thank you for sharing that, Chris. I know that's not easy, man.
Yeah,
And I love you for it, brother. I
yeah,
appreciate you.
absolutely, man.
All right. On you, man.
Um, and then kind of the transition over to um, one meth. So the Marine Corps had this idea that they wanted to establish three large deployment platoons of K9. And
Yeah.
when I say large, like they were
Huge.
up to 70, 80 dogs deep at Camp Lejeune, Camp Pendleton, California, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And then it was split initially from Okinawa and 29 Palms for 3MEF. But that was the idea. And then so your PMO dogs, because when we first started deploying, it would just be a message would come out, and kennel masters on the East Coast per se would say, "Hey, we need 2 or 3 dog teams per kennel." And they would pick their best dog teams, and they would come up and get some training. Like no, nobody knew what we were doing. Like we were all PMO handlers trying to figure out life back then. And
Yeah.
um, well, then now you got effort where that's all you do is train and deploy and train and deploy, and you have a large plethora of dog handlers to choose from, and that's all they're doing is preparing for the next deployment. That's their single focus, which is an incredible initiative, incredible idea. So I spent um, I think more time than anyone in the Marine Corps in the MEFs. I did 7 years total at one MEF. I did a 4 year stint, and I came back later on and did another 3 year stint, and deployed 3 times out of that out of one MEF.
So when
Um,
y'all are standing that up, and just so people understand that the K9 capability with the mess was just unreal, right? Because you had every type of dog that we had in the inventory was there, a combat tracker, SSD, explosive detection dog, dual purpose dog. And I got to visit Camp Lejeune is one meth or two meth. I'm sorry.
two MEF.
Two meths. Yeah, two meth. You said Pendleton's one meth. I got to visit out there on a project I was working, and it was insane, man. Because we walk into this area, and like you said, there's 60 plus dog people all in the same area, and anywhere from the lowest ranking Marine all the way up to a master gunnery sergeant, and what a deployment asset that is to be able to reach back and say, because I deployed like that as well, onesies and twosies, doing all
Yep.
this, showing up with no support. Now you have this entire support system that you've trained up with that
Yep.
is deploying together, and just going out and doing great things. So yeah, man, that's amazing. I knew you had went to the MEF, and I think at some point in your career, and let's not get off the MEF yet because those deployments, you said you did 7 deployments with the MEF.
I did
7
three.
years.
Yeah, 7 years, 3 deployments with him.
So when you deployed out with the MEF, because I mean, when I knew you, you were already you were already a staff sergeant at that point.
Yep.
I'd seen you come up from a sergeant to a staff sergeant in the
Yep.
little bit of time that I had known you. So that's different, right? So now you're not working a dog,
Yep.
or were you? You may have
I
been.
worked a dog for a little bit, deployed again, and then after that, I had to finally give my dog up.
Yeah, yeah,
But I picked up rank quick just because of the war effort. It wasn't because I was
yeah,
special. Just like so, I was. It was they needed bodies as we are growing.
yeah.
And so I was a staff sergeant, um, and we got the tasker in 2010 to
Hmm.
take 30 dog teams to Afghanistan.
Yeah,
I think as far as like a leadership standpoint, as far as like a just a overall pride of sense of like um, when we did something over there, like it was that group. You're talking about there was no sergeants. It was all lance corporals and corporals,
wow.
a couple of staff sergeants, me and Aaron Knuckles,
Yeah,
and Mark Corrado,
yeah,
and then we've been together for a good part of almost 2 years, year and a half, 2 years. Like we'd trained together. We've been ready. Like the whole. I'm talking about the whole platoon. Like we've
yeah.
been preparing for this moment. And we got the call, and we went over in June of 2010, and I could not be more proud of a group of Marines, man. I went on patrol with every one of them dudes. I listened to them give their capabilities, limitations, saw them in action. I was in fights with them. Like it was to see, like I don't, at that point when I looked at it, I'd had my time in the
Yeah,
spotlight and do my thing,
yeah,
and now it's time to pass on that knowledge and experience to these guys, and to see them perform at such a high level in some god awful conditions.
yeah.
Man, I could be more proud of a group of Marines. Like they will forever hold a special place in my heart. We did half our deployment in Helmand Province.
Oh, yeah.
And then we got pulled to Kandahar. The Army was launching Operation. Um, I can't forget remember that thing. My mind's going crazy.
So,
There's a large scale operation in Kandahar where they basically had 5 army battalions doing large scale clearing operations,
yeah,
and I took 22 of the 30 over to Kandahar, and we just whipped it on for 2.5 months. Like
yeah, good.
um, incredible. That now that again, just kind of paying respects and keeping legacies alive. In Helmand Province, Max Donahue
Yeah,
was on a mission down in Safar Bazaar, and he located an IED, and it was in Afghanistan is a little different. There was always sometimes the IEDs were like minefields. It was no rhyme or reason. You kind of figure out patterns. Like Afghanistan, it was sometimes it made no sense. Like it could be multiple in just a random area. Um, and there was always the thought process is if you find an IED, that's my known threat. Where's my unknown threat? Is
right,
it coming in the form of a secondary IED? Is it coming in the form of an ambush?
right.
What is my secondary threat? Because it was a real possibility in Afghanistan, and they started receiving small arms fire, and took position, took cover, started returning fire, and a secondary device detonated. And Max was a triple amputee, and Knuckles and I were at the field hospital they had him at right after it happened, and uh, at that point he was not responsive, but we were just kind of telling him about the other Marines, how everybody's doing, and um, sharing some laughs, just trying to feel like we're talking to Max.
Yeah,
Um, and they're like, all right, we're ready to medevac him to Germany. And, uh, said a prayer, kissed him on his forehead, and unfortunately passed away 3 days later from his injuries.
yeah,
Um, and so for Max Donahue and Corey Weens, man, I just, they'll forever be with me. And whenever I have a chance to talk about K9, I'm going to tell their story and keep their legacy alive. So God bless those two young men, and incredible warriors, incredible dog handlers, and blessed to have served in their circles.
yes, sir.
And so that platoon, man, was and you see like that's when it became real for all of them. Now, fortunately, I'd already experienced Corey's loss, but So I was making sure my guys were good after Max was killed, and make sure they had the resources available. We had the chaplain and everything. And I said, "Hey, guys, like, now I was being honest, like, we got to go back out for like they were doing the elections, and they want us to go out, do all the clearing sites for the polling sites, and then we're going to Kandahar."
Yeah.
And I said, "Guys, if you need, take a few days. Like, if you're not mentally there, like, you need to let me know. Like, there's no shame in that, and we'll get you back in the fight when you're." They all picked up rifles. Like, listen, we're doing it for Max now. Like,
Of course they did.
and those high fives turned into hugs and "I love you, man" when they went on patrols and missions, and
Yeah.
became very real for everyone. A bunch of dudes grow up over there,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and um, but I couldn't be more proud of a group of individuals, the way they handled themselves and the way they performed, um, and it was a very special homecoming to bring those guys back, and um, to this, the whole Marine Corps reunion we have now that you experienced down there was a part of it. It
Yeah.
started with a 10-year reunion of that group of dog handlers.
Oh,
So it was
wow.
very small in 2020, and then it's grown into, there was 200 veterans down there for the 25th anniversary celebration for 50
Yeah,
Marine dog
it
handlers.
was a full house, baby. It was a
Yeah.
full house, and it was amazing. I definitely want to talk about at some point, you know, what I remember from War Dog Association in 2003 when Terry and some of the other guys came down and met with us, and you guys, you and your class did a fundraiser and did some things, but kind of sticking to where you are right now. Um, not long after that, I ended up in Helmand Province for about 2 years of my life, man, 9-month pumps at a time. And I remember seeing Camp Donahue
Yep.
right there
Yep.
in Helmand Province. And for those that don't know, Helmand Province is just a hellhole.
Yeah.
And that it was such an intense time between like 2010, 2012, even been 2009. Um, and I have my own stories of how proud I am of Marines and what they did and what they're able to accomplish. Um, but anyone that was a dog handler in Helmand Province, man, they like you said, Chris, they grew up there.
Yeah. Oh
They
yeah.
boys become men very, very quick
100%.
there, and it was very, very real. And people always ask me, were you afraid? I said, nope. I had infantry Marines with me everywhere I went. I was not
Yeah.
afraid, man. But so you get through that deployment. You back to that's 2010, so you're still assigned to Camp Lejeune. So you head back
I'll
to
tell
Camp
them.
Lejeune or Pendleton, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Um, so you head back to Pendleton, nice reunion, you guys come home. Do you get another deployment out of that, or are you getting towards the end of your
Uh,
time?
no, I did at one MEF. The first time I did Iraq and then Afghanistan,
Yeah.
and then when I got back from that one, we were gearing up to go to Afghanistan again. And I mean, you got to look at between Israel, two to Iraq, and one to Afghanistan. My wife's like,
Yeah.
if you go again, like I don't know. I mean, it was a strain, man. It was
Yeah.
like 4 rips in 4 years. Like it was a lot of wait time, and
Right.
I was changing. I was not the same. Like losing a dude will do that to you, and I wasn't easy to live with anymore. And I was going through my own little battles, um, and I was a slightly different version of her husband when I came home, and she's
Yeah.
like, we got to take a break from this. Like it's she didn't sign up to raise kids by herself, and she was
Yeah.
doing it like made
Yeah.
great. She raised the kids by themselves, and I was doing my thing, um, and so I was like, I started looking at options, and I needed to do a B billet, um, which is in the Marine Corps at the time was like recruiting drill instructor or embassy duty.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not doing drill instructor recruiting, so
Right.
I volunteered for embassy duty, and that's all you can do is volunteer for. You can't the other two you can get selected for.
Right.
And I went to uh, MSG school to learn about internal security for the U.S. embassies around the world.
Yeah.
And now I got to take my family. We went to Helsinki, Finland.
To
Uh,
Finland.
Half, yeah, that was a good time, man. That was
Yeah.
that was a really good time. Like it was a nice time to decompress and just
Yeah.
spend time with the family. And plus it was exciting. I was learning a new job and
Right.
working with different people, and um, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that a lot.
So in that transition, you know, you came off a dog, which you came off a Lucca.
Yeah.
Right. So Luca, the way the military works for those that may not know is, basically Luca is going to get picked up by a new handler at some point. So tell me about that, if you
So,
will.
oh yeah. So at that point, I've been with Luca for 5 years. Paired together in Israel, did a couple tours to Iraq with her, and I was in a position to select her handler because we had a lot of handlers. We had
Right.
60, 80 handlers. But for me, there was only one option, and it
Yeah.
was Juan Rodriguez. He was on my first deployment in Afghanistan. He had a dog named Rolf. He's got a similar like kind of demeanor and temperament, and a good fit for Lucca.
Yeah.
And so he went to SSD school, and then we paired them together. And I gave him a whole book of notes, and I would have to watch from the vehicle because if she smelled me, she'd run to me. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's not easy. It's not
Yeah.
easy, but it's something because I taught Luca from her first odor. I taught her how to sit.
Right.
I taught her the beginning stuff all the
Right.
way up, and she has saved my life multiple times. So, but they turned out to be they're an incredible dog team. Like they were phenomenal. I'll be honest with you, it was a sense of like, all right, it's your turn now. Like go out there and do the damn thing. And Juan and Luca made an incredible dog team. And the week the same week that I went to Helsinki, Finland, my platoon, the ones who were left, along with another handful of new guys, they went back to Afghanistan.
Yep.
And so that was in November 2011. And he was attached to a SF unit and had a very successful 4 months of the deployment, 4.5 months of the deployment. Had a couple IED finds doing the damn thing. He was with Recon the first deployment,
Yep.
and then they were leaving a tree line going out to hit a compound, and Luca was walking point, and she located an IED. And the idea is, if there's one, there's two. If there's two, there's three. Where's your secondary threat? Where's your threat coming from? And this mission was to go hit the compound. So you're going to mark and bypass, search your way around it. Well, there's a secondary IED. And it detonated, and that was like a toe popper. So it just damaged her front left paw, but it sent burns up her left leg pretty bad damage up her left leg. We get a lot of dog down training, a lot of live tissue training. And one, training kicks in after a little bit of like, what the fuck? Training kicks in, runs up, stops the bleeding, picks Luca up, runs her back the same path. They get her back to the tree line. They got a medic there. They go to work on her and give her a shot of morphine. They get her bandaged up real nice, call it a medevac for 2. Our dogs get the same medevac procedures as our handlers do. And Juan gets on the bird with her. So at that point, Luca was on her 3rd deployment and completed over 400 missions, and no one was injured when she was walking point. Even the one she got hurt on, nobody was injured. She was off leash doing her job. And when they got the dog back to the vet, the vet's like, we're just going to change the dressing. Like, dude, you saved her life. Like the what you performed on the X and getting her off the X that quick, and the care you provided, is what saved her life. And she was walking in 10 days. They had to make a tough decision, talking with Lackland back and forth, X-rays, images, and they made a decision to remove her front left leg. And they said she's going to live just as long with it as she would without it. And it's better than the alternative, and given the damage. And but with that, we removed the leg. She's walking in 10 days, and no permanent ear or eye damage. And most importantly to me, she had the same spirit as she had before. She was the same Luca, which is absolutely incredible. I've seen dogs go through a lot less and suffer a lot more. And for her to be injured in that capacity, and she was just an absolute rock. It's still the same Luca that she was beforehand. And Juan never left her side from that point. And we had the conversation. So I'm in Helsinki, Finland. It happened to be on my wedding anniversary. And I get a text or email from you because you were over there. And I, that while I was injured, you basically gave me, you did right. You gave me enough information, there was an incident, but she's going to be fine. The handler's going to be fine. But it's something I wanted to know. And so I went to the embassy right after that, and I called back to the mech shelter there at Camp Donahue and was able to talk to Rod about 6 hours after the incident. And all I talked about was him. Like, buddy, you're good, man. Like he was, as you can imagine, he
Yeah.
felt I could let things down. It's like, no, buddy, dude, you're doing your job, man. Like you're in combat, you're in a dangerous situation. Like Lucca's strong, she's gonna be fine. Like we had a great conversation about it. I just like, dude, thank you for saving her life. And when they got back to Pendleton, dude, she is injured March 23rd, 2012, and I'm weird on dates, man. So she was injured on my anniversary,
Yeah.
and then her and I were reunited July 6, 2012, which was the day that Corey was killed in
Wow.
2007. Like, so it's weird, man, the way the dates come back in my life for various reasons. But
Yeah.
um, so the idea was like, hey, man, I was going to adopt her after that deployment because she would be too old for the next deployment.
Right.
And but this changed things. I had a conversation with Juan, man. I was like, dude, you've been had your own experience with her now, man. Like, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. He's like, no, man, this is Lucas, your dog.
Your
Like,
dog. Yeah.
dude, God bless him for doing that.
Yeah.
But he's like, man, this is your dog, man. You trained her, you had her 5 years, like the whole thing. I just want to get her back to you,
Yeah.
dude. They flew Lucca and people got involved. They flew Lucca and won first class. My ambassador got involved to Helsinki, Finland. When they landed, they only let Lucca and Rodriguez off the plane, and they unloaded everybody else at a different terminal
Nice.
just for the reunion. And so when he came off the plane, I was like, it's gonna be embarrassing. She don't remember me, like, because it's been only been like 8 months or something. Dude, she's not a dog that licks. She came up and started licking my face and jumping on me, and I
Yeah.
gave Rod a big hug, and he stayed with us for like 2 weeks. Lucas
Nice.
slept in his room every night. It was a great transition for
Yeah.
us. Gave me a chance to drink a couple beers with Rod and tell him, like, man, I just thank you for saving Lucas' life and being there for her. And we will forever have a special bond because of that dog.
Yeah.
We both went through a lot with her. She saved both our lives, and Juan's my dude for life, man.
And I'll tell you this, Chris. So he absolutely saved her life, 100%. Um, I was just down at the vet office, like I would do at the end of every night. I go down and check with the vet, make sure we didn't have anything going on, anybody coming in. And I saw the harness, and I saw SSD, and I saw Luca, and I asked him, "Is that Chris's old dog?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh my goodness." But the vet, she had pulled me to the side, and that's what she told me. She said, "He saved this dog's life." He said, "Everything he has done to this dog, I really don't need to do anything other than check the vitals," right? So great training
Yeah,
that kicked in there, man. And yeah, phenomenal. Now, Luca went on to have an amazing life with you. Can we talk a little bit? We'll stay on Luca for a little bit if that's okay.
yeah.
Uh, she got such a list of awards and decorations, and there's a book written about her. Let's dive into her a little bit after
Yeah.
service, if you don't mind.
Man, she was with us for 6 years in retirement. She made it to 1 month shy of 14 years old.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible, man. And um, yeah, we started in Finland. We which was pretty. It was pretty unique because they put it in the paper in the Helsinki newspaper. So
Mm.
Juan and I were out at a little cafe the next day with Lucca, and like her pictures on the thing, and we would take turns like just messing around. We go up like, the Lucca, they just speak much English, and then like point to the dog like, oh my god, that's Lucca. Like, it was fun, man. Like, it was cool. Um, but then what happened over the years, man? She became a true ambassador for the military working dog community. I was stationed at Quantico, Virginia next, and we would go up to Walter Reed once a month for the Marine Corps League would have a barbecue. We go up there and meet with wounded veterans, and to have a dog with her story would really bring some of those dudes out. And they love seeing her come up there and for those visits. And they have this PDSA Dickin Medal, which is the most prestigious medal that a service animal can receive, a military animal. Dates back to 1940, 43, 44. And Lucca was the 67th recipient and the first U.S. military working dog to receive it.
Wow.
So they had a general that was a liaison between Britain and the Pentagon, and he heard about it. He said, can we nominate one of our military dogs?" And yeah. And so they started reaching out to the program managers and asking around, and Lucca's name kept coming up. And so they reached it. Now it was a 9 month process. It was
Yeah.
statements, it was records, and it was first. I had to get witness statements from people I served with. Like they don't mess around. Like
Yeah.
there's a whole process to go through. Um, but man, it was that was a wild event. Like I went. They flew us to England for the presentation, and we had to do I don't a lot of interviews,
Yeah.
and that story went to over 1 billion people.
Oh
Man,
my goodness.
I had no, and I it was for me, it was much bigger than one dog. It always is. It's about bringing awareness to what our military working dogs do for our nation.
Yeah.
Um, and what a better, there's no better representative and ambassador than Lucca was. Like
Yeah.
she had the story. She was a great pup, a great demeanor, like the sweetheart. And we came home, and 4 days later, I deployed again. I didn't know what time it was for like, I don't know, 2 weeks. Like, but dude, she's phenomenal. And Maria Gudovich wrote a book about her in 2015, became a New York Times bestseller called Top Dog, and
Yep.
did a great job telling her story and gave us a chance to highlight some other guys like Billy Sutra and some of the Marines from 1MEF and Chris Knight. And it was, and then they've dedicated a couple monuments after Lucca. The first one was out in Texas,
Yeah.
um, up in Fort outside of Dallas, and then the second one was in my hometown of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Which obviously you were there to witness that one, and that was a very special occasion, man. To have her recognized and honored in my hometown, and
Yeah.
every time I was just home in Tuscaloosa a couple of weeks ago, I always go by and just spend a
Yeah.
little bit of time with Lucca. Man, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, she's right in the front too, man.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
beautiful, beautiful memorial. Very, very good detail, man. Amazing. Yeah, 100%, man. She's definitely an ambassador for the program, for the canine community, and everything that you and her and Juan have done. It's really great to see, man. Like y'all shared that moment.
Yeah.
You were both right there sharing that moment together, and it was great to see.
Every time. If there's anything about Lucca, like Juan's included. Like
Yeah.
he's. I mean, Lucca was our dog. Like we got like
Yeah.
joint custody. Like,
No, that's
but we get along. It's not a weird thing. It's like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
No,
it's everything every time, man. Like every time it's. And then Juan's now a volunteer. He's been a volunteer for the last couple of years for U.S. War Dogs.
yeah,
And when I go and do some selection, I'm out by him. We always meet up and have dinner. Like he's my brother for life. He's been to Alabama, been deer hunting with me, met the whole family, and um, he's been a couple times to Alabama. Like, so Juan's my dude, man. Like, and if it involves Lucca, it involves me and Juan. Like, that's just how it is. That's how
yeah.
it should be.
That's amazing. That's how it should be, man. That's perfect. So you said, what'd you say? 3 days later, you ended up deploying after.
3 or 4 days later, I came back and I had enough couple days to get adjusted, and I'd already had my stuff packed up, and then I was out the door again for 7 months.
Oh, geez. Now you're still at Camp Pendleton at this point, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
This is my second time at the Myth. This is
Right.
after MSG school. So I
So,
had
so yeah,
basically when I left MSG school or MSG duty,
yeah.
um, I was like, the only place I want to go is back to One Myth. I mean, that place meant a lot to me, and went and talked to the monitor, and he's like, well, there's not a spot for you right now. And he's like, I said, and he called a Major Hyman, who was one of my uh, officers back in the day who he worked with, and he
Yeah.
said if he wants to give it to him. And then I was like, I'll take care of the rest. And dude, I emailed the sergeant major my bio, said I want to take over your kennels.
Yeah.
Um, and a guy there was getting ready to leave. I took it over and got that thing back up and running shape, and I can put my heart and soul into it for another 3 years before I went to Marshall.
Yeah. So, um, what was Spartan Shield, man? So I know there was something about Spartan Shield
Yeah,
during.
so Spartan Shield was that was a deployment to they had civilian handlers there, and they this was the first time they were going to have military dog teams
Yeah.
in Camp Buring, Kuwait.
Mm-hmm.
And so we basically I was first took the first group of teams over there and established it as a MWD kennels, and then it turned into a launching point for our dog teams going into Syria,
Okay.
supporting SF units. So at that point in the Marine Corps, now this was another thing mindset wise. Like when I came back to the MEF, it wasn't Iraq and Afghanistan. It was trying to make sure the dog stayed relevant. And how do you do that? What are we doing right now? Well, we're doing MUs.
Right.
We're doing special purpose MAGTAFs. And so we worked hard and got the teams assigned to those. And so what that meant is when we went to Camp Buring, for example, I took 8 dog teams over there. 4 were from Pendleton, 4 from Lejeune, 1 and 2 MEF.
Yeah.
But I also had my tracker from Special Purpose MAGTAF. I had 2 dogs assigned to the MU who are forward deployed who would leapfrog where the MU needed them. And like I said, then it turned into a launching point for operations in Syria.
Okay.
So it was a different challenge. It wasn't kinetic. It wasn't what I but it was welcomed. I mean, I was ready for it. Like I enjoyed it. I'd done enough in the past to establish a kennels over there and set it up the right way, and
Yeah.
and enjoyed my time over there. I had a great group of Marines, and I was able to put them through some pretty good, I guess, kind of advanced training myself, and at the same time, just started preparing those things to start launching teams into Syria.
Yeah. Good deal, man. And so from then, how did you end up in MARSOC, Chris?
It was I mean they select you for those positions.
Yeah.
So the guy who was outgoing was Alan, Master Guns Alan. He came out and visited with me, and I had a pretty good reputation at that time. And he's like, "Man, I want you to come over here and take over the kennels for me." He wanted me to do it a year early, but I was a gunnery sergeant, and plus I can't. Still a big Marine Corps. I couldn't get out of orders. I can't just cut a short tour or something. So I
Right.
did my 3 years there, and then I came in and took over the MARSOC NPC program. I got promoted to master sergeant over in Kuwait at the Kuwait Iraqi border.
Yeah.
2 of my Marines, which is pretty cool. Like most time you get promoted by someone senior.
Right.
I was like, no, I don't know. I was a senior guy. I'm not gonna have somebody just promote me because they outrank me. So I had
People you know.
Rosendo Madrigal and
Oh, magic. Yeah.
Ramirez,
Okay.
2 of my sergeants, promote me to master sergeant on the border of Iraq.
That's awesome, man.
I loved it. And then, but yeah, it was. I lost my train of thought. Yeah. So, oh yeah. So the MARSOC. So yeah, it's like you get hand selected for those things, and I was very blessed to go over there, and you show up, and that's a whole different ball game, man. Whole different
Yeah.
mindset, and you're working with some dudes who have said, "I'll take that next step to be a dog handler at a different level."
Right.
Um, and it was I feel like I worked over there with some of the legends of MARSOC, man. I'd already worked with Billy Sutra. Now he was a legend he was a 1 MEF dog handler when he performed actions that earned him the Navy Cross, but he ended up going and being a CSO, being an operator.
Yeah.
Now these guys like Alex Schnell,
Yeah.
Brandon Marquez, Sean Hemphill, uh, Gary Elbert, guys who, I mean, Sean Hemphill, for example, was there for 7 years and deployed 5 times with the teams.
Wow.
In some just gnarly fighting. Like these guys they were built different. I loved it. I love working with them, love supporting them, love to create new opportunities and kind of enhance their pipeline, and
Yeah.
just kind of brought leadership to it, and help some of them reach their potential, I would say.
Yeah.
Uh, but in general, I'm just there to support these guys, and
Yeah.
how can I improve the training course? How can I improve the readiness? How can I improve it from a program standpoint? Those dudes are special, man. Very, and they let me get dirty with them. Like I was doing muzzle fights a week before I retired,
Of
just trying to
course you
help
were.
out where I could. And
Of course you were.
those dudes are special, and they took care of me, man. They took care of me at my retirement.
Yeah.
I had my family all come up. I had 100 or so people come up, and we're doing a canine demo, and we had the different capabilities. So PMO, the MEF, and then MARSOC, and
Yeah.
I was just kind of talking through each one of them, man. We had it timed up, and a truck pulls out on the field behind me, and then 2 helicopters come over, And then they act like they disabled it. And I had dog teams fast roping out of one and rappelling out of the other,
Oh, wow.
and go bite a guy in the back of the truck, and the driver runs out and they go bite him. I was like, ta-da.
Yeah.
And then the marshal general's like, who the fuck gets air support for the retirement? And he's like, you mind if I sit in? I said, yes, sir. So he sat in my retirement ceremony after that demo.
That's hilarious. That's awesome, brother. I love that.
Our
I
guys took
love
care of
that.
me, man. They were special.
Yeah. Well, you're special, man. I mean, they took care of you because you took care of them. And that's from everything I know about you. And as long as I've known you, that's been your MO, right? Take care of the people, take care of the mission. And I think that's your warrior ethos, man. Um, so War Dogs, let's talk a little bit about that. War Dogs Association. So I remember like looking for this monument at Lackland in 2003 like it was a scavenger hunt, trying to find where Nemo's original monument
Yep,
was, right? And I know you had it was I don't know if that was your first SSD class or your second one, but I know it was one of the early ones.
yep,
But I know you and your class, man, y'all grabbed a hold of that and y'all sucked it up, and y'all were fundraising. And you started working with a gentleman named Terry that's no longer with us.
yep.
Uh, but
Strickland.
Terry Strickland, that's right. And I remember the War Dog Association it was relatively small at that point, right? Um, and then, this year, I go out to San Antonio for the 25th War Dog Association anniversary. And like you said, there's 200 plus people there, man. And it's a huge event and it's amazing. Um, let's talk a little bit about that growth if you got the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it was U.S. War Dogs was established in 2000 by 5 Vietnam dog handlers.
Yeah.
These guys represented 3 branches of service, and they met at a reunion. And at that time, that's kind of all they had was like they would a reunion and get together
Yeah.
and conversate, just like it's what you do. And then a couple of these guys were like, well, we want to take the next step and like get more active and like what we want to do to give back. And they started it, and they were going to raise money for a monument up in New Jersey that honored Vietnam dog handlers.
Yeah.
And that started in 2000. They finally raised the funds and dedicated it in 2006. Now, during that time, 9/11 happens. Our generation of dog handlers start deploying, and they say, we got a different mission now. Let's start supporting these guys. And it was personal to them because they didn't get care packages. They didn't get welcome homes. They got spit on. They got disrespected. And they wanted to change the narrative. They wanted to making sure that our generation of dog handlers was not treated like their generation of dog
Right.
handlers. They took it personal, and some of our biggest mentors over the years, John Hemp, Terry Strickland, Ron Aiello, those guys mean a lot to us, and so they started supporting them. Now, U.S. War Dogs, what it's turned into, for one, to be a board member, you have to have served as a dog handler. So that's one thing. And then two, you every program that's been established since then was based off a conversation with a board member and a dog handler, just keeping their thumb on the pulse of the community and how can we help? What is not being met? What need is not being met that we can help out as a nonprofit? And so to kind of give you an overview of the programs that it's grown into. Starting where you're deployed, we still send care package. We sent 300 this past year to dog teams serving overseas. It's still nice to get a little piece of support during the holiday season for those teams overseas. We take a lot of pride in that. So now when your dog get ready to retire, we have the Military Working Dog Service Medal that we'll send out. Now that goes out with Ron established that. He worked with Congress to get it established, and he is the sole source for the DoD for an official Military Working Dog Service Medal.
Right.
And we kind of beefed up the package that goes with it. So they get the medal for the dog, they get the certificate. And for anybody who's been a dog handler, you can understand when that dog is gone, you want everything that you can have to connect you with that animal. So you build your little display board, your memory board, wherever you want, your wall, your office. And we also send them a dog bed because now they're getting ready to go from military kennels to a home. Send them some dog treats and just some things that just say thank you for your service
Yeah.
for the dog and for the handler. Now, the biggest impact we have is in retirement. Um, you're talking about it started with the RX programs. We cover all prescription medications for retired military dogs. We've saved handlers over $2.1 million since 2016.
Wow.
This past year alone, we did over $145,000 in prescription medications.
Wow.
And Ron started the specialized care program, which was a partnership with Red Bank Veterinary Hospital, because he's based in New Jersey.
Yep.
That hospital's in New Jersey. Man, if you had a serious issue, you could get them up there, and that hospital agreed to do everything. They did $750,000 of treatment for free,
Wow.
surgeries, chemo treatments, all the things. And Ron would help cover the travel costs to get up there. The only thing I've changed as a president, the only thing I've added was we expanded that program to where you don't have to make it up to Red Bank. We will help cover you no matter where you're at. And that started because of Rosendo Madrigal, one of my Marines.
They call him Magic.
Magic. Yep.
Okay, I've met
Magic.
him. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. Yep. He got that successful apparel company now in K9 World, doing really good for himself.
right.
But his dog had an emergency situation down in Yuma, Arizona. When he was still in the Marine Corps, and there's no getting to Jersey when your stomach's messed up and you got to go for emergency surgery. You got to drop $5,000-6,000. We didn't have a program in place, and I started looking, and I would see like 5 or 6 GoFundMe's a year for the situations.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have anything. We got to change that, and we built the infrastructure out, and we slow rolled it without talking about it, because we will make sure not, it's costly.
Yeah.
We can support it. We're good. $41,000 our first year, $110,000 the second year, $160,000 the next year, and this year's our 4th year doing it, and we're just under $200,000 in support for our specialized care.
Wow.
For retired military working dogs.
That's amazing, man.
And those 2 programs alone is just if we can alleviate the financial burden.
Right.
As a military, we select these dogs, we train them, we utilize them.
Right.
And when they retire, like we get military benefit, we get health care, they get nothing. It's just the Robbie law says you can have them, but all the costs are on you. That's not right.
Yeah.
So the ultimate goal will be legislation, which we've done multiple times. We're still doing that in the background. But until then, we're going to continue to do our part and alleviate that financial burden. You worry about keeping the dog spoiled and well-deserved retirement.
Right.
We're going to cover anything outside of routine care. We're going to cover any kind of specialty care and take care of all your prescription medications.
And that's just amazing, Chris, because that bond that dog and that handler build, and for that handler to be able to adopt them is amazing, right? It didn't always work out like that, but to again like take that burden of the financial medical costs off of them, and that's not all y'all do. Not only do y'all take care of those medical costs, when I was down at Lock or in San Antonio at the 25th anniversary, you guys are out donating, building fences for guys to make sure that they have the proper area to have this dog. It's your network, man. So not just the medical piece, but all other stuff that you guys are doing.
It's personal to us, man. Ray Myers, one of our SSD students.
Yeah.
Who's a volunteer now, said he's in construction. He's like, I want to build a fence for a retired military working dog. Here's the much as I can handle by myself. We put it out. We got this great family in Florida. He's up in Detroit. Yeah. We covered their expenses. He went down in like 4 days and built him a beautiful backyard. Incredible, man.
And that's one thing I'll say, man, is I think I talked to Paul about it for a while. I said, wasn't it so nice to be down there in San Antonio and look at all these young Marines all grown up now.
Yeah.
And that have all done amazing things,
Yes.
over their careers. And to see Ray and countless others, man. There's you talk about Sutra, man. I didn't know that he had gotten a Navy Cross. That's news to me. I'm just, I've been out of the loop, I guess, but
yeah, it was
amazing, man.
It was in our 2010 deployment. We had sent 4 guys to support MARSOC, and it was during our same time frame. So he's 1MEF Marine, 4 1MEF Marines, and he was at Shorebach, which is outside of Leatherneck, and he would come over all the time, take me over there. Yeah. And then, just because he'd been to Alabama with me, we're good friends, and
Yeah.
He's like, he came off a deployment of a mission. He looked different. He's like, man, that was different. I said, what's up, buddy? And he kind of got into it. But he's a very humble man.
Sure.
So he told me a very watered down, like he didn't take credit. It's like
Yeah.
I said, "You good, bud?" And we talked, and then a couple days later, the colonel is actually the one who put him in for it. This colonel's I can't remember his name. Bristol was a badass.
Yeah.
He personally recommended Billy for the Navy
Wow.
Cross. And
That's
he's like, that situation I was telling him, I said, yeah, yeah. He's like, take a look at this, and it was witness statements, and it was right. I was like, good Lord, Billy, like,
you left out some stuff, bud.
that dude, their team leader got hit. They got in a complex ambush. They had some local nationals with them. They weren't returning fire. He directed fire. He got them in putting good rounds on target on to suppress the fire. He ran across open fire with a med kit to provide medical care. He ran back and got these guys oriented to counter another offensive. He called in the 9 line himself. He called in the medevac.
Wow.
And when the bird landed, he personally loaded up dudes himself, and he took out quite a few enemy himself. Like that dude did everything he could as a 1 half dog handler.
Wow.
My God, man! And
Amazing.
I was like, that he was a beast, man. His number got called. He said, "Yeah, I'll do this. I'm
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. I'm
Here
here.
I am. Send me. Like I'll do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that.
Listen, man.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Billy's a
amazing.
bit different, man.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's again, Chris, and a lot of their success also shared your success, right? Meaning, I'm going to give you credit for it at some point, just being the leader that you are, the leader you were, and how you motivate. You always motivate people, man. I always said, when Chris retires, he's going to end up the governor of Alabama or something there. I know you've heard that a million times. Um, but you make people want to be better, man, if that makes sense. And I know for me, every time I see you, I get remotivated about life and just get into stuff, get into something different that I said maybe I didn't want to do this, but hey, why not? Let me go try it and see what happens. But um, man, you've had thus far such an amazing career in the military working dog community, and I know you continue it in the other dog communities that you're in. And I'm not gonna name them out. If you want to talk about them, you'd put them on your bio, but I, you're as humble as they come as well, man. I know you're now a master trainer with one of the certifying organizations in the country, Upwater. I'll say it.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Um, I just got the call last night. I just
Yep.
did an interview with him last night, and I got selected last night. So I'm
I love
super
it. Well
excited about
deserved,
that.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I knew when you and Nick were over there, I was like, well, that's the one I want to be a part of.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I wanna I'm gonna say some things to close out, but I'm gonna leave the last lines open for you, my friend. Chris, you've been an amazing friend, an amazing mentor, and a guiding light in the K9 community. Whether you know it or not, I hope you know it. You've touched so many lives across K9, and I've always enjoyed being able to just pick back up with you. I think you showed up. I was going through TSA K9 school, and hearing you and Lucca come and y'all come and give I still had a picture somewhere. Y'all give a motivational speech to our TSA class, right? You didn't have to do that. These are TSA dog handlers, but you came anyway. You gave the motivation. They enjoyed it. They loved it. They talked about you for 2 weeks after you were gone. And then I think I met up with you later that night. We were at the NCO club right there,
Yeah.
and it was so nice just to sit down
Yeah.
and I hardly ever get you one on one anymore, but it was it was really good to get you one on one, man, and just catch up on life and everything. But I want to mostly thank you for your service and your commitment, man. It never stops. It never will stop with you. And you make a lot of people around you better for it. But that's all I have for you. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I don't care if this channel gets 1 like or a million. I want to archive your story. I want to tell your story, and your story is going to lead to 50 other stories. But um, that's all I have for you, brother. Just from the bottom of my heart, and thank you so much for everything. Uh,
Sure.
and that's it. I'm gonna leave it out for you.
Joe, I'm humbled by your words, man. You know, I'm very blessed that our paths crossed when they did, at the time they did, and I felt like we were selected for a reason to start that SSD program and uh, pushed each other. And I've always been a fan of yours, man, and I love the way you conduct yourself, and you've become an absolute, in K9, your reputation precedes you, and so like to see someone like you just continue to grow and develop the way you have, like, dude, I'm blessed just to be your friend, man, and call you your brother, and I always will be there for you, dude, wherever you need. And God bless you for doing this, man, and keeping the names of people alive and the legacy alive and the stories. And I mean, it's probably good therapy for a lot of people. And just keep doing the damn thing, brother. You're crushing it, and I can't wait till our paths cross again, man. I'm always
Yeah.
gonna be here for you, dude.
I appreciate that, man, of course. And if someone was interested in helping support the U.S. War Dogs Association, Chris, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, if you just check out our website at uswardawgs.org, it has everything from our social media, free newsletter, ways to donate, and of course our support for our retired military working dogs on there.
All right, folks, you heard it. You've heard everything that Chris and the organization, the War Dogs Association, and those board members are amazing. I know a few of them. Um, you've heard what they're doing out there for our military working dogs and those handlers and those families and those communities. So if you're tuning into this show, you know what it's about. Make sure you go out and support as best you can. All right, man, that's it, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you so much again.